Hello everyone, Supersonic Curry here, and today I'll be reviewing Back to the Future. Now, Back to the Future is a wonderful movie because... Supersonic Corey, I have a message for you. Hey, excuse me, what's wrong with you barging into my bedroom without coming up with any knock system or whatsoever? You're completely interrupting me. I'm in the middle of making a video. I said, I've got a letter for you. Bye. Yeah, it's probably not important. So anyway, Back to the Future is a great movie because... what does it say? Dear Supersonic Corey, this is future you writing to the past. Long story, don't ask. If you're reading this, that means that you are in terrible danger. Considering you promised in your Terminator Genesis review you were going to upload a review of all previous Terminator movies and yet you haven't done it, you are in terrible danger and there is a Terminator coming right after you. I'd hurry up and get the review done. Signed, Future Corey. Well, as if that's ever gonna happen. So anyway, I'm here to talk about Back to the Future, so I'm going to say that it's a wonderful movie because... Seriously, what is with you guys barging into my room like that? Don't you know about courtesy or anything? I suppose you want a Terminator review and everything, don't you? Affirmative. Oh, I was just kidding. Okay, I promised I was going to do it, but I never said I was going to do it in my next video. I was going to do it, maybe 1 or 2 years later or something, but I was going to do it. Okay, fine, I'll do the review. Better. But not in that outfit. Oh no, you cannot talk about the Terminator wearing something like that. Fine, I'll get change.
Hi, Supersonic Curry here, and I'm back reviewing the first Terminator movie.
You know, I think I look a lot better with the glasses off. So yes, in my Terminator Genesis review, I did promise that I was going to review all of the previous Terminator movies in the series. And so what I'm going to do is that I'm going to have a Terminator marathon. And I'm going to review The Terminator, Terminator 2 Judgment Day, Terminator 3 Rise of the Machines, Terminator 4 Salvation, and I'm actually going to do a second review of Terminator Genesis. However, it's going to be a spoiler-filled review because I've noticed there's a lot of things I actually feel about Genesis that I'm not able to talk about in my last review because I had to make it a spoiler-free video. So, after I review Salvation, expect another Terminator Genesis review. So it goes without saying that The Terminator is a great movie. In fact, it got a perfect 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. 100%. That's right, Terminator was considered a perfect movie. Why? Why is Terminator so good? Let's find out. This is The Terminator. So The Terminator is the first installment in the Terminator franchise. Now, I personally don't think I have to go in depth in detail as to what this movie is about, considering there's like maybe a couple of you who don't know it, but what the heck, I'll be nice. So the Terminator takes place in a futuristic 2029. In this post-apocalyptic future, we've got a war between human resistance and machines, aka Skynet. Skynet is a computer program that runs these things called Terminators. Skynet eventually decides to send a T-800 back in time to kill Sarah Connor in 1984 before John Connor was born, the leader of the Resistance. And so John Connor sends a warrior named Kyle Reese back in time to the same point in time to protect her. And it is a race to see who can get to Sarah Connor first, Kyle Reese or the Terminator. Now this is a great story because there is so much you can do with this timeline. And it's really no surprise that it got so many sequels. But Terminator does one thing amazing. It scientifically proves that you can have a fantastic first movie without relying on being a setup movie for future sequels. It's a great movie on its own. Heck, this movie could have done fantastic even if it didn't get any sequels. I don't really know why, but I do really like this idea of this Terminator timeline, and there is a reason why there are so many sequels being made nowadays. Heck, they've already confirmed a Terminator 6. But that's just the overall timeline. There is the minor story happening in 1984, which is great. It is a special story between Kyle Reese and Sarah Connor, and they are working together to try and survive / defeat the Terminator that is constantly going after them. This Terminator thing will not stop until it has achieved its objective, or is terminated in the process, either one. And the interaction between Kyle Reese and Sarah Connor is extremely believable. And the way the story is presented, it really makes it sound really believable, and you really can believe something like this actually can happen. Which leads into the characters. I love the character development between Kyle Reese and Sarah Connor. It's absolutely great. You really do buy the fact that Kyle Reese is from a completely destroyed future. And when we get to 1984, considering that Sarah Connor is the mother of the resistance of the Terminators, you would expect some sort of extremely awesome woman full of guns and is ready to kick butt. Actually, no, she's none of that stuff. She's actually a really clumsy waitress, and she's just trying to get a job, and she's also out clubbing every so often. She's just a regular person, which is great. We feel like we can be this woman because she's exactly like us. She works and has a regular life. And then when she's given all this Terminator exposition by Kyle Reese, at first she doesn't even believe him. I mean, who would? You would think he's psycho. That actually is an aspect of the entire movie, because policemen actually find him and actually are trying to figure out whether or not he's psychologically insane. That is so smart because it makes so much sense. But of course, if I'm talking about the characters, there's someone I'm actually missing. I don't know, maybe the actual Terminator, considering that's the name of the movie. The way Arnold Schwarzenegger looks in this movie, you just have to look at him and you would probably be convinced there is a massive, gigantic machine underneath his flesh. You really do buy the fact that he actually is a Terminator. And not to mention the sound of his voice. He has problems with his endoskeleton throughout the entire movie, and it's really interesting to see how he deals with the situation. The story and character development is done extremely well, but I'm not exactly sure how to describe it. It's something you just have to experience yourself. The soundtrack is actually extremely good as well. By listening to the soundtrack, you really can tell it's from the 80s, and it's actually one of the rare occasions where I say the overall soundtrack is just as good as the score itself. Is this movie perfect though? No. If there's one thing I really do have to complain about, it's the effects. This movie was made in the 80s, and it definitely shows through the effects. Now don't get me wrong, most of the action is actually really good. The on-foot and car chases and the brutal gunshot fight scenes are actually really realistic, and they still really hold up today. However, I'm really talking about the Terminator effects themselves. The scene that I'm showing you right now is extremely fake looking, and the way Arnie's head moves, you can tell it's an animatronic, but at the same time he actually is an animatronic, so it's easier to ignore because he actually is supposed to be a machine, so it's not surprising that he actually looks like a machine in that shot. But if there's one effect I really cannot ignore, it's the effect that's used for the endoskeleton of the Terminator in the climax of the movie. Now, obviously, considering we are told that it's about this Terminator, this cyborg, and so naturally we're going to find out what it looks like after the machine might explode or something. We see the actual endoskeleton. And yes, the movie gives us that, and it's a genius of an idea to actually give us that. Because if we're told it's a cyborg, but we never actually see the cyborg, that's going to be very disappointing. And I definitely love it, and I love its design. In fact, in my Terminator Genesis review, I complimented them for looking awesome. And the design is fantastic. It looks amazing. But the effect itself looks like it's stop motion. Now, I'm not against stop motion. Movies like Coraline, I absolutely love. However, stop motion in a live action film looks very strange. It looked really stiff and jaggy, and you could tell they used stop motion for this effect, and it looked ridiculous. So much so that it is hilarious. And this is not a good thing. This is the climax of the movie, okay? So that means this should be the most intense and probably the scariest scene in the entire movie. This scene should be frightening. It should be disturbing. But no, I was not disturbed by this scene. I was laughing at this scene because the stop motion looked laughably dated. It looked really bad. But it came from the 80s, so I can forgive it. If this movie came out today and it still had effects like that, I would have something to complain about. And yes, it's got a couple of really bad effects, but it came out in the 80s. It's expected to have a couple of dated effects. But one good thing I really have to compliment about this movie is that one thing that was really smartly directed is that the director put this story and the characters first and the action and the effects second. That always is the right thing to do. You should always put your characters and story first. If you get really good effects and really good characters and story, that's a bonus. But if you can only get good of one, get a good story and characters, and that's exactly what this movie does. That is why The Terminator is a fantastic movie. Now, I personally do feel that the 100% rating on Rotten Tomatoes is a little bit too high. I think it's a bit too generous. I think it's more 98% or something like that for the dated effects. But I'm glad that it focuses more on story and characters than it does on the effects. Because this is a great movie. If you haven't seen it yet, you're missing out. But hey, is Terminator 2 Judgment Day just as good? Well, that's for another video. I'm Supersonic Corey, signing off, and not so fast. What now? Now it's time for you to review the sequel. Oh jeez, this is gonna be a long day, isn't it?